Good morning, everyone. It's Phil Wade from Dalton Wade Real Estate Group, and today I'm joined with Kenny, Clint, Shika, Peggy, Fred, Tosin, Lisa, Tracy, and Jay. And today we're going to chat about, what you need to know as a buyer's agent, what you should have in your file, and some key dates. And here is Ismar, kind of around, around working with, working with a buyer. So, and then we're going to actually be rolling out some software in the next week or so that, will help organize everybody sort of around this subject. So they'll both be, things you'll upload into your file, and then also, things you'll check off as done. And it's basically kind of like a transaction coordinator for you, so that it'll keep you nice and organized, and you won't miss an important date. So the first thing that'll go in there is it's the Dalton Wade buyer acknowledgement. So that'll be something we actually give to our buyers, and it kind of explains to them exactly what we're doing, so that way there's no confusion. And a lot of this is actually a little bit of risk management in terms of making sure we're compliant, and the clients really understand how we'll be representing them, kind of what's our responsibility, what's their responsibility. So the check, it's actually a disclosure as opposed, so it's not something that commits them to you, but it's a disclosure that sort of allows them to kind of know exactly what we'll be doing. So that you'll get them to sign that, and then that'll go into the file. And then again, if you're from everybody here obviously is with Dalton Wade, but if you're from another agency and you're watching this, I'm happy to send you the information. Even though you might not have the software, you can still do all this manually. So it's just good practice to kind of make sure that you're representing your clients well, and your file that you're turning into your broker is complete. So there's that buyer acknowledgement. Then the next one is the fully executed contract, the as-is residential contract. Again, if you're uploading that, what we see sometimes when the contracts come in is missing signatures, not so much missing signatures, but missing initials. Not every page is fully kind of done the way it should be. So then we have to go back and ask you to fix it and have your client. So, kind of pre-audit all this stuff before you upload it. The next one is, the fully executed seller's disclosure. The listing agent hopefully has, put that online, and you've been able to give that to your client. Sometimes we'll get them where they say, oh, they never lived in the house, so they didn't fill that out, or they check don't know on every box, and that's all fine. You can still sign that. And again, it's telling you as the buyer's agent that they're not telling you anything. Now that technically doesn't get them off the hook if there is a material defect in the house. They're still supposed to disclose that, but sometimes they may or may not. So again, when you're not getting a seller's disclosure, you got to be a little bit more on guard in terms of what's there. You want to really have that thorough home inspection, having a qualified, really good inspector that does a very thorough job, again, will help you. The next one is the lead paint disclosure. I've done a training specifically on that, so it's a pretty broad topic in itself, but again, that's an area where, if someone looks at the file, that's one of the things they look for. It's an important, we don't want to be, having someone purchase a house, and then if they have little kids, there's a problem. So, over in St. Pete, the housing stock's older, so this comes up a lot more. But, here in the greater Orlando area, there are certainly homes built before 1978, so you just want to make sure that that's filled out correctly. And it's not supposed to be, so say like the selling agent, the listing agent didn't do it, it's not, you don't have your buyer fill it out first. You have to get it, because if the buyer fills it out first, technically that's a violation, and it's done, because they can't really fill it out till the seller fills it out, because the seller has to tell them kind of what they know about the property. So, and then the other one is any other addendums. So like you got the FHA addendum, the VA addendum, the condo writer addendum, the HOA addendum. So again, if you're not sure what addendums you need with the contract, when you're having your buyer, sign it, certainly give me a call, and we'll kind of make sure that that's complete. So when we're looking at the file, we are looking to make sure that, all the right addendums are ultimately there. And again, there's really no excuse if they're not there. So the next one is a very, very important one. This is, so we're going to have everybody sign now that basically says there's no open permits, there's no expired permits, no code violations on the property, and the square footage that's on the MLS actually equals what's on the property appraiser report. And again, this is, we hopefully are collecting some nice commissions, right? So we do have some responsibility. It's not like free money raining down on us, right? We have some responsibility, to kind of make sure that that person who's buying that house knows what they are buying, and sometimes we can't count on others to sort of make sure that, these things are the way they should be. So, and again, it takes 5 minutes. It's very simple to do. You just basically go on, either the county or city site. You see what they are with permits. If the house has a brand new roof, there should be a permit for that, right? If there's no permit, they can still buy the house, but again, it might call into question the workmanship. Maybe the workmanship wasn't done so well. So when somebody gets a permit, the final step in the process is somebody from, the municipality comes out and basically, reviews the work and says, okay, it's all been done in compliance with the code, and we can issue that final, so there's an open permit when they apply for the permit. If they don't get it closed out, then the permit can expire, so that means nobody actually came and sort of, looked at the property, or they didn't get a permit at all. So again, no permit at all. Maybe they converted a garage into a bedroom, right? Okay, in the eyes of like the appraiser, that doesn't exist. It's what's on the county record. That's what counts. So that's why we have to go back and verify, the square footage is the same on the appraiser's record as it is on the listing. And if we do that, and it should be, then we're all good. And because again, you wouldn't want to, because again, some of this can come out like through the title company, maybe through the appraiser, but sometimes not. And again, if it's missed, there's potential exposure for us. So we always want to kind of do that. And then also we want to do it when we're the listing agent, right? Again, we can't, as a buyer's agent, we can't count on the listing agent, right? They should do this. We shouldn't even have to worry about this if somebody's purchased, but we all know some of the agents out there, are not so good. Maybe they're not so well trained, what have you. But so we have to just, make sure. So that's what we got to do there. Again, this is just, obviously you got to have your buyer's pre-approval, or if they're a cash buyer, their proof of funds. When either you or they go and make the first earnest deposit, we need a copy of that. Then this would be an item, not so much that you're going to upload, but you would just check off. The inspection period is you're through that, so it's checked off. Typically, on the contract, you have 10 or 15 days to do the inspection. You can get your money back if the client doesn't want to go forward, provided you notify the listing agent and tell them you're canceling. But once that date goes by, they have to buy the house, or if they don't buy it, they would not be able to get their deposit back. So again, if you have one transaction going, you can kind of usually remember these dates in your head. It's when you have 4 or 5 things kind of going at once, the dates start to blur. The software will remind you that your inspection period is ending. Sometimes you have a second earnest money deposit, so that you have to have the documentation for that. The next one is, if it's a person getting financing that the appraisal's been done. So again, you're not going to get the loan if the appraisal isn't done, right? So again, as you get closer to your financing period, you want to know the appraisal's done and check that step off. The next one is and this is, again, we did a training specifically on this, the contract in April changed so that if your buyer's getting a loan, and so it used to be loan commitment, so they have to have a commitment from the lender saying they're getting the loan. Now it's loan approval, so they have to be approved. So typically it's 30 days, so 30 days to get the approval, and then 35 days you close, so 5 days later you close. So now, and this is really very, very important, so at 30 days, you have to now notify the listing agent that they've gotten the loan, or they haven't, or you've gotten an extension. Now, if you didn't know, so here's the disaster scenario. They got the loan, you forgot to notify the listing agent, and the listing agent has a cash backup offer higher than your offer, they can terminate you. If you don't notify them, they can kick you out. You would have a very unhappy Phil, and you'd have a very unhappy client. So again, the software will notify you of that, but I mean, everybody should be aware that at that 30-day mark, you need to notify the listing agent. Either they didn't get the loan, they got the loan, or you're asking them for an extension to kind of extend that approval period because they're sort of in limbo. But if you don't notify them, it could be bad because again, they got the loan, you just didn't notify them, and they lost the house. Everybody would be very unhappy. So that's an important one. The last one again is the signed buyer final walkthrough that they've come through. They've the house is in good shape and ready to be turned over for them, and they sign that. You upload that, and then the last one would be the settlement statement. If it's a finance or the HUD if it's a cash buyer. So again, the buyer and seller will sign that. You always get a copy of that from the title company, off you go, and then you have that put into the file along with a copy of the check stub, and everything's compliant, everything's in good shape, and we're on to the next transaction. So any questions in terms of what we need, or kind of the key dates?
I'm not sure how to check the permit here. Like the county side, just they say there's an open permit.
Yeah, exactly. They would say that there's an open permit, and then you would speak with the listing agent about what's their plan to close it out? Because what ends up happening is those permits transfer with the house. So if it's not closed, and again, when it's closed, it means that it was signed off by someone from the town, city, municipality, the building inspector or one of his folks came out, reviewed the work, signed it off, and that's what closes the permit. So that way everybody knows it was done correctly.